Hey guys, welcome back to today's episode. My name is Chelsy Wise, and you are listening to the Next Brave Step podcast. So, today we're going to talk about a subject matter that's just a little bit strange, I guess. Not strange, but it's one of those things in business and especially the photography industry that, I don't know if I've actually heard a podcast episode on it, but it's something that I wish I would have heard an episode on it a few years ago. And the idea for this episode actually came from an interview I was doing for another podcast actually this morning. And what we're talking about today is the reality of photographing weddings while you yourself are navigating a divorce and the dichotomy that comes along with it. So we will go ahead and dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to the Next Brave Step podcast, the podcast that's all about turning dreams into action. I'm your host, Chelsy Wise. Now, this podcast is more than just something to listen to while you fold laundry. Imagine I'm inviting you to join me in my kitchen, a space for genuine and transformative conversations. Here, with the sunlight streaming through the windows, margaritas and homemade guac on the table, we're ready to dive into stories and strategies that don't just inspire you to think about a better life, but give you the tools, motivations to go out there and make it happen. So pull up a chair, let's talk like old friends, and together we'll navigate the journey from turning dreaming into doing, one brave step at a time. Your adventure towards making your dreams a reality starts right here. Okay, to give a little bit of a backstory for those of you who maybe are listening to this podcast for the first time, my name is Chelsy Wise. I am a mom of two kiddos. They're currently 11 and 7 next weekend. So those are my kiddos, Skylar and Grayson. I was married for 10 years and got divorced about 2 years ago now. And I have been a wedding photographer and a photographer since 2013, photographed mainly weddings for the last 7 years. So that's where I'm at in life. And that's kind of what I do. Now, I love wedding photography, and there's a few reasons that I really like it. But there was a time during the middle of the divorce where it felt really wrong, I guess, to be photographing weddings while I personally was in the middle of going through a divorce. And I think we as creatives and especially photographers, our art and our creativity tend to mirror our lives very often. I know a lot of, family photographers and newborn photographers get into it because that's where they are in their life. They're having babies, they're raising families, that type of thing. And it is strange to go to weddings weekend after weekend after weekend, watching these people just filled with so much joy and hope and excitement for their journey that lies ahead of them when you yourself are, have just closed the chapter on what was supposed to be, your happily ever after story, right? And it is it's weird, it's hard, and I don't think, many people are talking about it, and I just wanna talk about it. There's a lot of us photographers that are going through that right now, and it's okay. It's okay to feel weird about shooting a wedding when you yourself are going through a divorce, and I guess if anything, I just want to, validate that those feelings they're gonna be all over the place, and that's okay. It's good to acknowledge the discomforts and the sadness that can come when you're photographing something that reminds you of something that you've shut the door on or that you've lost. And I think it's good to acknowledge those feelings. Now, I've done a lot of therapy, a lot of growing, a lot of, internal work while going through this divorce, which I'm assuming if you're relating to this episode, hopefully you are as well. And I think therapy has definitely been something that has really helped me come out stronger on the other side of this divorce. Some of the things, before going to the wedding that I did, in that really dark, deep season of it, was just really set my intentions before I walked in on the wedding day. So before wedding days, in my car, I have always done like a little bit of like grounding and that type of thing and just like getting myself like ready for whatever it is that I'm about ready to walk into. Because you never know what you're going to walk into on a wedding day. There's so many different people's emotions and feelings and schedules, and like there's so much going on a wedding day. So it's like this like beautiful chaos, right? And so every day before a wedding, I always have taken time to kind of like ground myself. But it came to a point during the divorce where I was like, okay, I need to really focus on showing up for my clients and being happy for them and, you know, just celebrating with what they have going on. And that meant that I really needed to just leave my baggage at the door. It can be really, I guess, tempting to just throw in the towel on photographing weddings when you are going through a divorce or when you are divorced, especially because it's very in to use your own marriage and your own wedding story as part of your branding and marketing. And, it's hard to take all of that stuff out when you've built, you know, your relationship into your marketing and branding stuff. And, it's hard, but it's powerful in doing that. So, like I said, leaving your baggage at the door can really help you show up best for your clients. And so for me, that looked like, sitting in my car before I got out of the wedding. I usually shoot weddings that are anywhere between an hour and 2 hours away from my house. So I have some time to kind of prepare myself mentally before I go to the wedding. But anytime I get there, I sit in the parking lot and really just like feel the joy that my clients have and try and bring that into me so that I can show up in the best possible light for them. And it really is this concept of compartmentalizing, different parts of your life. And sometimes it's easier to do on certain days than others. For me, I would say the one of the hardest weddings, it wasn't even a wedding, it was a vow renewal that I was photographing very early on in the divorce process. And we had been doing marriage counseling for a few weeks, probably about a month and a half at this point with our pastor. And even our pastor was like, this doesn't look like it's gonna work. And I had to photograph a vow renewal for someone. I think that they were celebrating their 10-year anniversary, and we were coming up on our 10-year anniversary. And our pastor that we were doing marriage counseling with was the one officiating this vow renewal. And so that was rough to not only like be going through that, but to have the same officiant who knows what's going on in your relationship officiating this vow renewal. Like I I mean, the images ended up great, like, I delivered a great product and all the things, but I definitely disassociated during that shoot, and, that was definitely a coping mechanism, and I would love to have been more present for it, but in order to do the best job that I could, I did kinda have to go on autopilot, and I think you're gonna have to do that during some points in your career as you're navigating your divorce, and it sucks, but it's kind of what ends up happening in order to continue to have that income coming in, continue to like grow your business and all the things. You almost do have to disassociate and not be like the center of your brand. Just let your brand do its marketing outside of you, even if you kind of are just not emotionally in a spot where you're excited about weddings. And that's okay. You're in good company. Other photographers such as myself have definitely been there. Now I'm great going back to weddings and I love it and all of the things. So there is light on the other side of that tunnel, but it it's good to be able to, compartmentalize. Now, another thing that I wanted to kind of share is that, you know, going to weddings, I had that ritual of, trying to leave my baggage at the door. But what I found is like when I could just leave all of my negative feelings in my car and not take them with me on a wedding day, it really opened up and gave me the ability to find some more joy in life again, because there was definitely times where I was like down and depressed and just not feeling it. But being around people who are so happy and like, optimistic for their future, like if you can leave your stuff around and just kind of soak that in, like it is a little bit life-giving to do that, but you have to be able to leave your stuff alone, leave it there and soak in like their happiness and goodness. And it's not easy to do, but eventually you will get to the point where you do feel the joy again of photographing weddings and, the tears that you're kind of holding back behind your camera are happy tears again and not sad tears. Um, I think I cry at probably almost every wedding, and throughout the years, it has been for different reasons. And I'm so glad that there's usually a camera in front of my face to hide those tears. But I just, wanted to sit down and, you know, have this candid conversation with you to, let you know that you're not alone in going through this, in navigating, this season of life. And I hope that you can take a lot of the lessons that you're learning from your past relationship through the divorce and put it into what it is that you want in your life moving forward. Maybe that is, just time on your own to rediscover yourself and to, you know, find your own self-worth and do a lot of, that inner work. Or maybe it is that you want to find someone else that you want to spend the rest of your life with. There is no timeline for how quickly you're going to move through this process. You're going to move through it at different rates on different days, and that's okay. Like, take the time that you need to take to process the things that you need to process, because if you try to rush through it, it's it's just going to create more of a headache for you later on. You won't heal from it, you won't learn from it, you won't grow from it. You will, eventually not learning those lessons is going to catch up to you. And, that's my hope, is that if you are going through this season, that you're not alone. It's very easy to feel like you're not alone. I think honestly, some of the only times that I really even left my house to like and got dressed up and like having real conversations with people was when I was going to weddings that I was photographing. And it was really good to have that sense of, normalcy, that refuge of routine where I got to continue to do something that I loved and be creative and, kind of get immersed in my work while still going through something in my life that was very life altering and, has completely changed the trajectory of my life. And, I just want to encourage you to keep going. You're doing great. It's going to feel hard some days. Eventually, it's going to get better. I think it's very tempting to want to transition out of wedding photography. And if that's what you decide to do, great. There's tons of other ways that you can, transition your business to not include wedding photography as your main offer. But it is possible. It is possible to navigate a divorce and continue to photograph weddings and build your, wedding photography business, even with a personal brand. So, there is it's definitely weird to have like photographed in an engagement session and talked about your husband, and then, a year and a half later you're photographing their wedding and you're divorced and like you have to kind of explain that. But and you get to decide how much that you let in and you don't let in. My ex was never very involved with like shooting, like he never really second shot for me or anything like that, so he wasn't really involved in the business. I definitely did talk about our story and our marriage and stuff like in a very like curated way beforehand, but it has been something that has been interesting to navigate. And I just wanted to kind of create this episode to let you know that you're doing great. It's hard. It's gonna get better. And, sometimes you gotta compartmentalize your own feelings to be able to continue to do the things that are gonna pay the bills. And, I know as creatives, sometimes that's really hard to not feel super invested in your craft and your product when, like, so many of us, like, that's why we started a photography business, is because, this was, you put so much of your heart and your soul into it. And then to have part of that identity, like, taken away, especially with wedding photographers, it's hard, but it's not undoable. You can definitely continue to do what you're doing and to thrive as a business and as a person. I honestly believe that if you're going through a divorce and you have decided that this is the best decision for you and your family, then congratulations. I'm glad that you have made that decision. I know there was definitely some people in my life who were definitely of an older generation who told me to my face that I was giving up and choosing the easy option of leaving. And that is, if you've been through a divorce, you know that that is not true. Like, the easy option is to stay together for the children. The hard option is to decide to leave a marriage. And it's not a decision that I think anyone takes lightly. And anyone who has not walked in your shoes doesn't know all of the intricacies and decisions that took you to where you're at. And you are allowed to share as much of that as you want to, or as little of that as you feel that you want to. And that's okay. You are allowed to have as much privacy or let in as much light into the situation as you want. The key really is to put up your own boundaries around it, what you want to share, what you don't want to share, and understand that there's ways of marketing your business outside of being like, oh, look at my wedding and my marriage. It's perfect, because spoiler alert, nobody's marriage and, relationship is perfect. And if they say that it is, they're lying. Now, I am currently in a really, really awesome relationship that I do really like. But there's definitely things about it that are not perfect, and that's okay. And I I don't know what I'm saying here. Anyways, so to kind of tie up this, like, sort of rambling podcast episode, the biggest thing is honor your feelings. Like, it is okay to feel sad while photographing weddings while you are navigating your own divorce. There's going to be a lot of different feelings that come up through all of it. And the best advice that I can give you is to find a really great therapist that you feel comfortable talking to and, working through your divorce with. Now, am so thankful that I had been working with a therapist for a few years before I went through my divorce. So that was very helpful to continue to have that relationship to kind of just talk through, hey, this is what's working. This is like how it's going. Just to have that external sounding board. It's really it's good to have someone outside of any of your friends or your family to give you that outside perspective on stuff and to help give you coping skills that maybe you hadn't thought of. I know for me that one of the biggest things that I learned from therapy was to take a, balcony perspective. So looking at things into, okay, this person is saying this probably because of something over here that's not actually directed or has anything to do with the actual conversation that we're having. And that was very helpful when going through the divorce and just all of the legal stuff and, navigating co-parenting, which has been interesting. We have 50-50 custody, so I have the kids for a week at a time. So I have them from Wednesday to Wednesday, and then he has them from Wednesday to Wednesday. And that's rough to have to co-parent that way. But I really do think that the kids are doing really well. We're both like adjusting to stuff well. We have really good communication with each other. And, I'm really proud of how we are showing up with things right now. I have another podcast episode that's on co-parenting update, which I don't know if it will drop before or after this episode, but if it has, I'll make sure I link that down below in the show notes. So if you want to hear a little bit more about how that is going for us. But yeah, definitely, honor those feelings, find a good therapist to work through stuff. When it comes to actually photographing those weddings, try and leave your own baggage, your own feelings, your own emotions about weddings and marriage like at the door, because your clients hired you to provide a service and a product for them. And especially if you want to continue to be a photographer, it is really important to compartmentalize your own feelings and emotions when you're in the depth of those really dark and gloomy days, to continue to serve your clients well, because they hired you for a reason. They love you as a person, they love your work, and they've chosen you. And so take pride in that and leave any of your negative emotions at the door if possible, and try and compartmentalize that as much as possible while you're photographing those weddings. I would be lying though if I said I didn't get home from weddings and just like break down sometimes and, you know, feel really crappy about stuff. Or while you're editing, like there's gonna be like this roller coaster of emotions, and all of those feelings are valid. They're just trying to tell you something, teach you a lesson, or get you to realize something. And it's our job to interpret what those feelings and emotions are trying to tell us. That's another therapy tidbit from you. And the other thing that we talked about today was that, keeping with your routine, finding that normalcy, especially when your life feels like it's like been completely upended. For me, like I moved out, so I was moving to a new house. We had new routines with the kids being there like every other week. And to have something that was normal, to go to these weddings and get dressed up, like put on makeup and, feel wanted and needed, and that I was providing something of really good value to my clients, it really helped to kind of, you know, find that normalcy and find that confidence. And, the other thing with weddings is you have like a begin, a middle, and an ending stage to like delivering your product. And I know it's really easy to feel like divorces can drag on forever and there's a lot of back and forth stuff. I feel very fortunate in the fact that our divorce and the legalities of it were pretty straightforward. We did a non-contested divorce. Everything was kind of looked over by a lawyer before it was filed. But in all, like there wasn't a ton of bickering or back and forth on things, which was, I'm very thankful for. But that's not the case for everyone. And, you know, take refuge, I guess, in the fact that you can treat a wedding as a project and there is an end date and like there's a completion date. And sometimes just having something to check off your to-do list is like being done can be such a good little hit of dopamine. So, you know, savor those things, savor the things that you are, get to celebrate, especially when you are just going through a crappy time. And like maybe it's not divorce that you're navigating. Maybe you're a newborn photographer who just had a miscarriage. Like that is, can be very similar feelings that come up between all of the things. So that is my little rambling episode for today. I hope that, this episode will, resonate with you if you're going through a divorce, and that, if you want to reach out and have more in-depth conversations, I'm definitely open to any of that. If you haven't taken a look at our Brave Step Collective, this is a new membership platform that we have created that basically you get access to all of the trainings, live trainings, monthly trainings, and courses that I have created. all for a low monthly payment. If you want to check out more to that, there will be a link down below in the show notes. But that is a rather really great community to be a part of, to meet other photographers who are going through different things in life. Maybe it's a divorce, maybe they're starting their business. But our community is so amazing and so diverse in the types of things that are going on. And it's not just photography related. We have all sorts of classes from marketing, branding, mindset, website design, all of the things. And we bring in speakers as well. So if you want to learn more about the Brave Step Collective, the link will be down below. But that is it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye. That wraps up today's episode of The Next Brave Step. I've truly enjoyed having you join me on this journey. Here at The Next Brave Step, we don't just talk about our dreams, we take bold actions towards them every day. Stay connected by hitting that subscribe button and dive even deeper with us by becoming part of the Next Brave Step Insiders group on Facebook. Let the insights and energy from today's conversation ignite your next brave step forward. Remember, every small step is a vital part of your incredible journey. So get out there and take that next step forward to the life that you love. And remember, in your pursuit of that life that you love, you're never alone. I'll be right here cheering you on. I'll see you in the next episode.